for Crito. I'm assigning a lecture by somebody else as well because I think they do a really great job, a better job than I could of explaining the actual goings on of the Crito. So I want to focus on two things that we might find interesting, especially if we contextualize Socrates to his time and place. So what's going on in the Crito is that Crito, the titular character, wants to convince Socrates to flee his execution. And Socrates doesn't want to do that. So just to recap what's going on, Socrates is accused of impiety for basically just running around asking questions and corrupting the youth. There's some reasons why this might be the case, that he's accused of this. And he's found guilty. And we didn't read the apology, but in between the Euthyphro and the Crito is the apology, and the apology is the actual trial of Socrates. And in it, like, they actually offer Socrates exile or to pay a fine or whatever, and he's like, screw you guys, right? And appropriate punishment for this is death. And he pops off at the mouth, and they, sentence him to die by drinking hemlock. So he actually has to kill himself. And the Crito is just basically Socrates saying, it would be unjust for me to flee execution for various reasons. And those reasons are enumerated very well in that other video, but I want to focus on two things. One comes at 49a, and it ends around 49c. So Socrates lives in ancient Athens, and there's this sort of eye for an eye, right? Sense of justice. We see that in the Euthyphro, right? His dad is responsible for somebody's death, and so there should be some sort of punishment. And they're not equal, so maybe death isn't the right thing, but there should be some sort of comeuppance. And this tracks with other ancient cultures at the time in the Mediterranean. So this is not unique, but the idea that if somebody does you an injustice, you return the injustice is fairly normal. In fact, it might be what you think. You hit me, I'll hit you, and so forth. But Socrates at 49a through c does something a little shocking, where he says, do we say that we should never willingly act unjustly, or that we should in some instances and not in others? Or is acting unjustly never good or noble, as we often agreed on previous occasions? Or have all of our previous agreements been overturned in these last few days? And did we fail to notice long ago, Crito, that at our age we ourselves are no different from children, and we have serious discussions with one another? Whether the many agree or not, and whether we must additionally suffer harsher things than these or gentler, nevertheless, acting unjustly is evil and shameful in every way for the person who does it. Do we say this or not? And Crito says, well, we do. Socrates says, and so one must never act unjustly? Crito, by no means. Socrates says, and so one should not repay an injustice with an injustice, as the many think, since one should never act unjustly. What he's saying here is, look, it doesn't matter if he's been treated unjustly. If he acts in an unjust way, he's no better. An injustice doesn't become justice simply because you're responding to mistreatment. And this is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Eye for an eye, gone, right? So that's really interesting, given the time and place. And we're going to pair this with what comes at 50a. And 50a is this phenomenal section of Crito called the Speech of the Laws. And it begins at 50a, and it continues towards to almost the end of the Crito, where Socrates anthropomorphizes the law and goes through. So Crito gave all these reasons, and Socrates tried to calm him down, just relax, Crito. But then it's clear Crito's not getting it. So he takes on the character of the laws and responds to the reasons that Crito gave for why Socrates should flee, should escape execution. And Socrates' basic position here is that fleeing his execution would be an injustice because he essentially has agreed to abide by the laws of Athens. Instead of attempting to find a different punishment or change the laws through persuasion, he agreed to be subjected to them. And the idea here is that you can't just decide when the subjection of the laws is means that you have to do something unsavory to yourself and bear some sort of punishment, that all of a sudden the laws are unjust. They were perfectly just for Socrates when he wasn't about to be executed. So keep that in mind as you read through this and as we go into other readings in the course, that the point here is that Socrates is speaking as a citizen of Athens, as somebody who has had the capacity in the past to undertake changing of the laws. He's a full citizen. And a citizen in Athens is a male who's a descendant of a founder of Athens, landed to some extent. They have some sort of income. There are only like 500 of these people in Athens, right? So he's very privileged relative to, visitors, foreigners, slaves in Athens. So perhaps Socrates doesn't mean to extend this to everybody in Athens, but he certainly means to extend it to himself. He could have at any point changed the law. We can think about whether or not we accept these reasons, right? Like, is it really the case that the law is not equal to people? Like, how does that work out? We can think about that. We can think about whether or not it's actually as easy as Socrates says it is to change the law. We can think about whether or not it should be easy to change the law. We can think about what it means to actually consent to be governed by the laws. And we're going to do some of that stuff. But that's what's going on in the speech of the laws. And it only works in conjunction with the claim that Socrates makes earlier that you can't do an injustice in response to an injustice. So, but check this. The laws aren't saying here that an injustice hasn't been done to Socrates. It's just that the laws aren't responsible for said injustice. There's a lot of tensions going on. Like, okay, I can't do harm to somebody because they harmed me, but the laws contend that they haven't harmed Socrates. So why are these things in this text? It's just fun to think about these things and try to work through them. Interestingly enough, during Socrates' life, Athens was ruled by 3 tyrants during a period of time, cleverly entitled The Rule of the 3 Tyrants. The 3 tyrants ordered Socrates and a couple of other guys to go and arrest some people. Socrates didn't think this was right, and he refused to do so. And he was actually, I think, arrested at the time. Point being, I don't think you can make the argument that Socrates says it's never okay to break the laws. I think you can make the argument that whatever Socrates means by consent to be governed or consent to the laws matters a lot here. And it's possible that, full democracy means we have to obey the law if we're citizens. Maybe if we're not citizens, but certainly if we're citizens. So, digging through that, making sense of that, it's a real difficult task. But the Crito is a wonderful text, and I hope that the lecture that this is paired with does a really good job of getting the fun of the Crito out.